millionaire dad, sees Waitress feed his disabled daughter and then changes her life forever. Life can change in the blink of an eye, often through the kindest, simplest gestures. This is exactly what happened when a weary millionaire father, Thomas Caldwell, went to a roadside diner with his disabled daughter Savannah on a rainy afternoon. Among the bustle of plates clattering and orders shouted, a compassionate waitress reached out to help Savannah in a way no one else had dared. That small act of kindness, unnoticed by most, ignited an unforgettable journey of redemption, hope, and heartfelt surprises. Little did they all realize how this encounter would reshape every life it touched, forever changing destinies. Thomas Caldwell, by all external appearances, had it all. He was the founder of a remarkably successful tech startup called Caldwell Innovations, a company that had soared in Silicon Valley and caught the attention of major investors, including the well-known venture capitalist Richard Hathaway. Thomas had lived his entire life with a single driving force to push boundaries and prove himself worthy of recognition. Raised by a father who never believed in him, Thomas spent his youth trying to shatter any low expectation placed upon him. Over time, his relentless ambition paid off, and he found himself among the ranks of the wealthiest entrepreneurs in the country before he turned 35. Yet behind every success story, there can lie a deeper heartbreak. For Thomas, it was his daughter, Savannah Caldwell. Born with cerebral palsy, Savannah was non-verbal and had minimal use of her legs. She was small for her age, just 11 years old, yet her delicate frame carried an infectious spirit. The doctors had warned Thomas and his wife Lauren from the outset that Savannah's condition would require unrelenting care and might limit her ability to walk, talk, or feed herself independently. While Thomas had soared in the business world, his personal life was not so triumphant. His dedication to Caldwell Innovations meant extended hours in the office, relentless travel schedules, and constant stress. Lauren grew distant. The couple drifted apart, eventually divorcing quietly under private legal terms. True to their vow to protect Savannah, both parents focused on ensuring she had the best therapies, caretakers, and specialized medical equipment money could buy. But for Thomas, the guilt was crushing. Despite providing every luxury Savannah needed, he knew deep down that what she needed most was his time, patience, and warmth. He could not replicate the comfort of a father's presence with a blank check, no matter how large. After the divorce, an ache stirred within him, a sense that maybe he had sacrificed too much for success. Determined to repair the fragile bond with his daughter, Thomas recently decided to scale back from Caldwell Innovations. He appointed a new chief executive officer, transferring day-to-day responsibilities so that he could carve out more quality time with Savannah. On a drizzling November afternoon, with the sun hidden behind layers of grey clouds, Thomas found himself driving Savannah home from a specialized therapy session in San Francisco. The roads were slick, traffic was at a standstill, and they had missed lunch. Seeking a simple slice of normalcy, Thomas pulled off at a modest roadside diner named Rosie's Place, well known in the area more for its warm hospitality than its profit margins. Thomas entered Savannah in her wheelchair by his side and took a seat at one of the wooden booths. Rain pattered on the diner's windows as the neon sign above flickered. That was where Thomas's entire world would shift, triggered by a single gesture of kindness from a waitress named Anna Parker. A gesture that would connect two kindred hearts burdened by life's challenges, yet bound by a single graceful act of compassion. Unbeknownst to all involved that day, would mark the start of a deep, transformative journey. Thunder rumbled outside Rosie's Place as Thomas quietly settled Savannah's wheelchair next to their booth. He placed her specially designed cup on the table and gently brushed a lock of auburn hair away from her forehead. Savannah had a serene gaze, one that seemed to see the world in a more profound way than anyone else. Thomas tried talking to her, describing the day's therapy session. Savannah responded with a soft sigh, indicating that her energy was waning. Communication for her was typically a series of gentle coos and moans, along with expressions in her bright hazel eyes. Thomas watched her carefully. As soon as she frowned or made a protesting sound, he would adjust the angle of her wheelchair or the position of her hands. He'd grown used to the routine and prided himself on learning Savannah's unique language. However, in the quiet moments, a pang of sadness always gripped him. The weight of Savannah's silence, her inability to speak actual words, pressed on his heart. He often found himself wondering what she would say if she could. Would she be angry with him for all the times he was away? Would she express happiness at this moment, just to be with him, even in a modest diner on a rainy day? Thomas tried to quell the spiral of guilt by focusing on the present. Today was about them, about sharing a meal together, like any regular father and daughter. The sound of a bell chiming announced the arrival of a waitress. She appeared suddenly, a bright smile on her face despite the subdued weather. Her name tag read Anna Parker. She had chestnut brown hair pulled into a low ponytail and warm brown eyes that sparkled with genuine kindness. Her uniform, a simple white blouse and black apron, was carefully kept, but there was a noticeable weariness about her. Slight shadows under her eyes indicated a long day, or perhaps a difficult life outside of work. "Hello, welcome to Rosie's place," Anna said, her voice light and caring. "What can I get you and your daughter?" Thomas blinked, as though he'd been lost in thought. Clearing his throat, he said quietly, "We're, just stopping by. Could we start with 2 glasses of water and a menu, please?" "Absolutely," Anna replied, noticing Savannah's curious gaze. As Anna handed Thomas a menu, she couldn't help but linger on Savannah. Anna had encountered many children over her years waiting tables, but something about Savannah stood out, the serene acceptance in her eyes, as though she was used to the world ignoring her. Something stirred inside Anna, a feeling of empathy that came with having faced challenging circumstances herself. When Anna returned with the water, she saw Thomas struggling to get Savannah's specialized spoon propped up. It was fitted with an easy-to-grip handle and angled for accessibility, yet Savannah's motor skills required constant assistance. The father's face registered a familiar frustration, not with his daughter, but with himself for not being more adept. Meanwhile, Savannah's arms quivered as she tried to hold the spoon steadily. Thomas sighed. "It's okay, honey," he whispered. "Dad will help you." Savannah blinked, her lips trembling slightly. That's when Anna stepped forward, noticing the father's tension, and softly asked, "Would you like me to help Thomas froze?" Typically, strangers hurried past them or pretended not to see them, as if Savannah's disability was contagious. But here was someone, a simple diner waitress, volunteering to step into their world. It caught him off guard, stirring a vulnerable gratitude within him, along with an unfamiliar emotion he couldn't quite place. He glanced at Anna, nodded slowly, and said, "Yes, if you don't mind. Thank you." Smiling, Anna gently took the spoon, scooped up some mashed potatoes from the plate she had just set down, and carefully brought it to Savannah's mouth. She took time to ensure Savannah was comfortable, encouraging her to chew and swallow with patient enthusiasm. Savannah's eyes lit up with delight, and for a brief second, Thomas thought he saw real joy shining in them. That small moment of a stranger offering help with no expectation in return would leave an imprint on Thomas's heart. It felt like a window opened in his tightly guarded world, allowing warmth to seep in. The silence was still there, but now it felt less weighted with hope, buoying it from below. Behind Anna Parker's polite smiles and soothing tone was a reality she never advertised to her customers. Life at Rosie's place was the best job she could secure after dropping out of college in her sophomore year. Her dreams of becoming a social worker, someone who could fight for vulnerable children and families, had evaporated under the weight of financial difficulties and an unexpected pregnancy. Anna's son, Ethan Parker, had come into the world on a stormy night much like this one. His father, Anna's fleeting high school sweetheart, vanished not long after she announced she was pregnant. Without child support or a stable family to rely on, her parents had passed away in a car accident. When Anna was 20, she was left to build a life on her own. She'd moved to San Francisco believing bigger cities offered more opportunities for single mothers. But heartbreak and limited prospects had led her to a small town outside the city, where rent was cheaper and life was a bit slower. However, even in this quieter setting, finances were tight. The paycheck from Rosie's place covered rent for a modest one-bedroom apartment. Groceries, utilities, and Ethan's daycare fees left little to spare, if anything. Yet Anna refused to succumb to hopelessness. She was determined to provide the best she could for Ethan. A strong moral compass guided her. She believed in the power of kindness, the idea that each small gesture could create a ripple of good in the world. When Anna saw Thomas and Savannah that rainy afternoon, something immediately tugged at her heart. She recognized that tired slump in Thomas's shoulders and the weary acceptance in Savannah's gaze. In another life, if Ethan had been born with a disability, Anna knew she would have wanted the world to show him kindness, to meet him where he was, instead of pitying him. With all the responsibilities of single motherhood, Anna never forgot the dream of working with children who faced challenges every day. Serving tables might not have been her grand ambition, but it gave her moments like this one with Savannah to show compassion. After feeding Savannah a few spoonfuls of mashed potatoes, Anna gently wiped the girl's mouth with a napkin, mindful not to appear patronizing. Savannah's eyes were bright, and she rewarded Anna with a sound that almost resembled laughter. Thomas visibly moved quietly, thanked Anna. Though he was a man of power and prestige, he felt strangely humbled in her presence, as though all his accomplishments meant little in the face of such genuine kindness. When Thomas offered to tip Anna for her extra help, she refused. "Please don't," she said, smiling softly. "I'm just glad I can help. You two are my customers today. This is what I do." Thomas didn't push the matter, but he found his thoughts lingering on her sincerity, long after she had gone to place their orders. He couldn't remember the last time someone helped him or Savannah in such a heartfelt way, without expecting something in return. The cynic in him wanted to believe she might have recognized his face from newspapers or business magazines, hoping to impress the elusive millionaire. But every instinct told him Anna's warmth was genuine. From her vantage point behind the counter, Anna checked the clock and bit her lip. She was nearly at the end of her shift, but still had to pick up Ethan from daycare. If she clocked out late, she'd be charged an extra fee she could hardly afford. Yet she couldn't shake the urge to keep an eye on Thomas and Savannah, to ensure their meal and time together went as smoothly as possible. Something about them, especially Savannah's radiant spirit, made Anna wish she could linger, talk to them, maybe even share some of her own experiences. But practicality called. She had a life outside Rosie's place that required her attention. Upon delivering the check, Anna noticed Savannah's wheelchair had slightly twisted away from the table, and the girl's hands struggled to reach a napkin. Without a word, Anna adjusted the chair, handing Savannah the napkin in a gentle motion. Thomas observed it all, his mind whirling. How often he wondered had he seen high-profile executives and wealthy philanthropists offer far less care or consideration to his daughter. He found himself wanting to know more about this woman, her background, her hardships, her reasons for showing such kindness to strangers on a grey and dreary afternoon. However, as the hustle of the diner picked up again, she moved on to attend other tables. Thomas and Savannah were left in a bubble of gratitude and curiosity, never suspecting that this fleeting connection would spiral into a life-changing series of events. Rain continued to drum on the roof of Rosie's place, creating a hush that seemed to envelop the diner in its own world. The ambient noise of sizzling griddles and murmured conversation faded into the background for Thomas as he prepared to pay the bill. Savannah, comfortably fed and relaxed, gazed around with curiosity. She seemed calmer and more content than she had been earlier that day, almost as if Anna's gentle interaction had soothed some of her anxiety. Thomas pulled out his wallet, counting out cash for the meal. Normally he used a sleek credit card, but the small-town diner's humble atmosphere made him reach for something simpler. He wanted to leave a generous tip, but Anna's earlier refusal echoed in his mind. She seemed to sense when kindness was real and didn't want a monetary reward for it. That kind of humility made Thomas even more determined to do something meaningful to express his gratitude. When Anna approached one final time carrying a fresh glass of water for Savannah, Thomas asked, "I was wondering, could you write your name down for me? I'd like to remember who helped us today." Anna's cheeks flushed slightly. "Oh, you don't have to. Please, it would mean a lot to me." Thomas insisted, setting a small piece of paper on the table. With a shy nod, Anna scribbled her name, Anna Parker, on the paper. Beneath it, she hesitated, then quickly added her phone number. "In case you or Savannah need help again," she said softly, unsure whether it was appropriate, but feeling compelled to offer a way for them to reach her. She had never given a customer her number before, yet something told her this was different. Thomas tucked the note in his wallet with a quiet smile. He stood maneuvering Savannah's wheelchair towards the door. Outside, the rain had momentarily lessened, turning into a gentle drizzle. Thomas opened his umbrella, guiding Savannah out the doorway as Anna held it open. Their eyes met, and though no words were exchanged, there was an unspoken understanding, an odd sense of familiarity, as if their stories were meant to collide. As Thomas and Savannah drove away in his sleek black SUV, the events of the afternoon replayed in Thomas's mind like a film he couldn't pause. He ran a hand through his short, dark hair and exhaled. It wasn't that he believed in cosmic signs or fate, but Anna's genuine care for his daughter had stirred a longing in him. Perhaps for a sense of community and warmth he had largely missed out on since his divorce. Savannah sat quietly in the back seat, her gaze fixed on the droplets racing down the window. After a few minutes, she let out a sound that resembled a small hum. It wasn't a word, but it felt like happiness. Thomas glanced at her in the rearview mirror and caught a gentle smile tugging at her lips. Pulling into the driveway of his spacious home in Hillsborough, an exclusive neighborhood just south of San Francisco, Thomas felt the usual pang of emptiness. The large modern house, perched on a hillside, boasted floor-to-ceiling windows and exquisite interior design. But inside it was quiet. Too quiet. Savannah's nurse, Maria, greeted them at the door, offering Thomas a polite smile. Normally he would pass Savannah off retreat to his study and bury himself in emails or phone calls with corporate executives from Caldwell Innovations. But that evening he lingered, pushing Savannah's wheelchair into the living room to spend more time with her. Maria raised an eyebrow. "How was therapy, Mr. Caldwell?" she asked. Thomas forced a polite grin. "It was good. Rainy day. We stopped at this little diner. Met someone interesting." Maria looked interested, but didn't press further. She waved goodnight, reminding Thomas she would be back early the next morning. Once alone, Thomas settled on the sofa, Savannah in front of him, turning on soft music in the background. He took out the slip of paper with Anna's name and number. He wasn't sure what, if anything, he should do with it. Dialing her for no reason might be invasive. Then again, he felt an inexplicable compulsion to see if there was some other way he could thank her, or at least get to know the person behind that unexpected touching moment. Still, Thomas set the paper aside. Life had a way of upending itself when you least expected it. He had no idea that the answer to the unasked question in his heart, how to connect more deeply with Savannah and find true fulfillment in his own life, would soon reveal itself, all because of a single fleeting moment in a roadside diner. 3 days passed, bringing no contact between Thomas and Anna. He kept busy by finalizing documents for a major transition at Caldwell Innovations, the appointment of his longtime friend and partner Joseph Whitfield as the new CEO. It was a monumental shift, one that signaled Thomas's intention to step out of the limelight. But stepping aside wasn't easy. Reporters kept digging, and rumors spread about the startup king going through a family crisis. Some whispered about financial troubles, while others speculated Thomas was working on a secret new venture. In reality, Thomas was merely searching for something intangible, peace meaning a chance to be the father Savannah deserved. He recognized that he couldn't keep the demanding role of CEO if he truly wanted to devote more time to her therapies and daily care. Yet as soon as the corporate hustle lessened, he felt an uncomfortable emptiness. Without the constant calls and responsibilities, his nights loomed large, filled with quiet moments that forced him to confront his regrets. One evening, after tucking Savannah into bed, Thomas retreated to his study. He paced around, thinking about the business deals he'd left behind. A small part of him missed the adrenaline rush of negotiating partnerships, sealing deals, and seeing Caldwell Innovations flourish under his leadership. But deep down, he knew there was no turning back. Savannah was the priority. He couldn't compromise anymore. Eventually, he found himself at his desk, flipping through old papers. That was when he found Anna's note tucked inside his wallet. Her number seemed to jump off the page, beckoning him. He thought of Anna's face, the way she'd tenderly helped Savannah, refusing any extra tip or recognition. The memory of her genuine eyes made his heart stir. In a world where people often did good deeds for social media clout or financial reward, Anna stood out for her sincerity. Could he possibly call her now, days later, without it being awkward? He tapped his phone against the palm of his hand. Debating, worse, what if Anna didn't even remember him? Gathering courage, he dialed the number and waited. A hesitant voice answered. "Hello." It was Anna. "Hi, Anna. This is Thomas." He began speaking gently so as not to alarm her. "Thomas Caldwell. From Rosie's place the other day. I, hope it's okay that I called." There was a pause, a shuffle of background noise, and then a small laugh. "Oh, Mr. Caldwell. Of course I remember you and your daughter. How is Savannah?" The warmth in her tone calmed Thomas's nerves. "She's doing well. We've been taking it day by day. Actually, I just wanted to say thank you again for how you treated us. You made a difficult day feel a bit easier." Anna smiled, though he couldn't see it. "I'm glad. How can I help you?" Thomas felt awkward. He hadn't planned beyond expressing gratitude. Searching for a reason to keep the conversation going, he blurted out, "Would you maybe like to join us for Savannah's next therapy session? It might be interesting for you and, well, I think it'd be nice for Savannah to see a friendly face." The request surprised both of them. Anna hesitated, uncertain. "I have a pretty busy schedule, mostly working at the diner or taking care of my son. But I can try to make time." What day? Thomas named a date. They agreed to meet at Riverside Children's Therapy Center, a specialized clinic in Redwood City that had been pivotal in Savannah's care. Although Anna found the invitation unusual, she was after all just a waitress. Something compelled her to say yes. She felt drawn to Savannah's quiet resilience and was curious to learn more about the therapies that helped disabled children. The days that followed brought subtle shifts in their lives. Thomas arranged for an early morning therapy appointment, making sure to handle the scheduling so Anna could attend. Anna rearranged her diner shifts and enlisted her neighbor, Clarissa Wong, to pick up Ethan from daycare. Clarissa was one of Anna's few friends in town, a middle-aged librarian who admired Anna's tenacity. Hearing that Anna would accompany a millionaire's disabled daughter to therapy made Clarissa light up with curiosity. But Anna waved away any gossip, insisting it was just a chance to help. Little did Anna and Thomas realize that the tides of change had begun to roll into their lives, set in motion by that single phone call. By stepping into each other's worlds, they were about to uncover the vulnerabilities, hopes, and secrets that would ultimately weave their stories into one. Sometimes life's pivotal moments arrive quietly disguised as strange offers or chance phone calls. And in that hushed space of uncertainty, true transformations take root. The Riverside Children's Therapy Center stood out with its vibrant murals and child-friendly architecture. Painted with smiling animals and rainbow arches, the building exuded an atmosphere of hope. Inside, bright colors continued to dominate the walls, and the corridors were lined with colorful handprints, each belonging to a child who had passed through, leaving their mark on the center's legacy. For Savannah Caldwell, these sessions were part of her weekly routine, occupational and physical therapy, to strengthen her muscles and improve her motor skills. Thomas parked his SUV in the designated lot, carefully helping Savannah from the back seat. Her wheelchair was custom-built, with supportive straps ensuring her comfort and safety. While Thomas usually dreaded these visits, each one a reminder of how far Savannah still had to go today. A subtle wave of anticipation replaced his usual weariness. Anna was joining them, and he was curious about how she might connect with Savannah in this environment. Inside, they found Anna waiting near the reception desk, a soft smile on her face. She wore simple jeans and a pastel sweater, her hair pulled back in a neat ponytail, her eyes brimming with warmth. Thomas realized he was relieved to see her, that the day felt somehow brighter with her presence. Savannah was soon whisked away by her therapist, Grace Levinson, who greeted Thomas politely. "We'll be in room 3 today, Mr. Caldwell. We'll focus on core strengthening and fine motor skills." Grace offered Anna a curious look, but included her in the conversation without hesitation. "Feel free to watch through the observation window or join us if you'd like to participate." Thomas nodded, and both he and Anna followed Grace to the therapy room. Through the large glass pane, they observed as Grace gently guided Savannah onto a padded mat. She offered Savannah brightly colored blocks, encouraging her to grip and stack them. Each small success, Savannah managing to stack 2 or 3 blocks, was met with cheerful praise. It wasn't the first time Thomas had watched a session, but it was the first time he felt such a wave of empathy seeing Savannah struggle. He knew she pushed herself beyond her limits in these sessions, battling a body that resisted coordination, yet her eyes shone with determination. He glanced at Anna, who was visibly moved. She clenched her hands as though willing Savannah to succeed at placing another block on top. When Grace paused the session, allowing Savannah a moment to catch her breath, she waved Anna and Thomas inside. Anna, timid at first, approached Savannah, kneeling beside her. "You're doing great, Savannah," she whispered, brushing back the little girl's hair. Savannah tried to lift her hand, offering a subtle sign of recognition. "That's a positive response," Grace noted. "Savannah's been improving her motor control. Any encouragement helps boost her engagement." Grace introduced a few activities for Anna to try with Savannah, such as rolling a therapy ball to strengthen her torso muscles. The gentleness in Anna's approach was striking. She guided Savannah's hands around the ball, speaking softly, praising each attempt. The progress was painstakingly slow, but Anna seemed unfazed, offering the same patience she had shown at Rosie's place. Standing off to the side, Thomas felt a twinge of emotion he hadn't experienced in a long while, a mixture of relief and unexpected joy. He recognized that Anna had an innate ability to connect, to see beyond Savannah's disability and engage her as an individual. It was almost the same gift that had once drawn him to his ex-wife Lauren. Back in the early days, Lauren had been a pediatric nurse who had first possessed infinite patience for children's needs. But over time, that patience wavered under the weight of conflict and an unfulfilled marriage. By the session's end, Savannah was visibly exhausted but content. As Thomas and Anna stepped outside into the corridor, they made small talk with Grace about continuing home exercises. Once Savannah was settled in her wheelchair again, Thomas turned to Anna. "Thank you for coming. This meant a lot to me and to Savannah." Anna looked surprised. "I'm just happy I could be here," she said softly. "It's eye-opening to see how much dedication goes into these therapies. She's a strong girl." Thomas nodded. "She is. Sometimes I forget how strong she is, because I get lost in what she can't do. But seeing her today, it's a reminder." A comfortable silence descended as they walked toward the parking lot. Clouds drifted across the sky, sunlight breaking through in beams that cast dancing shadows on the concrete. Thomas cleared his throat. "I was wondering if maybe we could have dinner or something. I'd love to talk more about the center, your experiences. Maybe there's a way to support it." Anna hesitated. She was used to turning down offers from men at the diner who mistook her kindness for flirtation. But Thomas's motive seemed different. He had a sincerity she couldn't ignore. "Well, if you're thinking of a public place, sure," she said, her voice tinged with caution. "But I have to check my schedule. I work evenings a lot," and my son Thomas's eyes widened in realization. "Right, your son. I'm sorry that was thoughtless of me. How old is he Ethan is 4? Anna replied, her face lighting up at the mention of her child. "He's my little firecracker." Thomas offered a small grin. "Would you like to bring him along? We could plan something family-friendly. Maybe a Saturday afternoon at the park. We can bring Savannah's wheelchair so she can join in." Anna paused, feeling warmth surge through her chest. Invitations to social outings were scarce in her life. Most days were a mad dash between work errands and childcare, but the offer of a simple afternoon park visit felt refreshingly normal. "I'd like that," she answered, smiling at Savannah, who was dozing off in her wheelchair. "Let me talk to my babysitter, Clarissa, and we'll work out a time." As they parted ways, Thomas felt a weight lift from his shoulders, replaced by a flutter of cautious hope. Anna, for her part, felt her own guarded heart open a fraction. Neither realized it was the beginning of a deeper connection, a mix of mutual respect, shared compassion, and the subtle beginnings of something more. Life was offering them a new perspective, a glimpse into what it could mean to form bonds built on empathy and trust. The following Saturday, a crisp breeze swept through Greenfield Park, carrying the scent of fresh grass and damp earth. Families dotted the landscape, children running amok, parents huddled around picnic tables, laughing over the day's warmth. Thomas arrived first, with Savannah setting up a small picnic area near a paved walkway that allowed easy access for her wheelchair. Savannah, sporting a pink sweater, gazed wide-eyed at the swirl of activity. Not long after, Anna appeared with Ethan in tow. The little boy had unruly sandy hair and an exuberant grin, his eyes dancing with excitement at the playground's possibilities. The moment he saw Thomas and Savannah, he broke into a shy but curious wave. Savannah's expression brightened at the new arrival, letting out a small sound that seemed to catch Ethan's attention. He toddled over, glancing at her wheelchair, then peeking at Anna for reassurance. Anna knelt down to meet her son's gaze. "This is Savannah," she explained. "She's a friend who's here to have fun, just like you. But she may need a little help moving around." "Okay." Ethan nodded earnestly. With a child's innocent acceptance, he reached out to wave at Savannah up close, eliciting what looked like a gentle half-smile from her. Thomas and Anna exchanged a small laugh, touched by how natural the encounter felt. Soon Ethan bounded toward the nearby swings. Anna watched him carefully, ensuring he was safe before she approached Thomas and Savannah. Thomas had arranged a light picnic, sandwiches, fruit, and juice boxes. It wasn't extravagant, but it felt right. Together they helped Savannah pick at small bites, mindful of her limitations. Occasionally they'd share stories. Anna described how challenging it was to juggle motherhood and work. Thomas disclosed how Caldwell Innovations became such a success and the toll it took on his personal life. At one point, Anna's phone buzzed. She quickly glanced at it, her expression turning grave for a split second before she tucked the phone away. Thomas noticed but decided not to pry. Instead, he changed the subject, asking about her long-term dreams. That's when Anna revealed her previous desire to become a social worker and how life's hardships derailed her education. "If I ever saved enough money, I'd like to go back to college," Anna admitted, fiddling with a blade of grass. "But for now, it's just Ethan and me day in and day out." One day, though. Her voice held a note of optimism tinged with caution. Before Thomas could respond, Savannah let out a sharp sound, half laugh, half cry. They rushed to check on her. Nothing was wrong. She'd just been startled by a passing dog, and Anna quickly soothed her, stroking her arm. Thomas once more felt that gentle wave of admiration for Anna's empathy. It wasn't forced, it was second nature. When Ethan ran back from the swings, breathless and giggling, Anna set out his juice box. He flopped down on the grass beside Savannah's wheelchair, offering her a dandelion he'd picked. The simple gesture made Thomas's heart squeeze. He realized how rarely Savannah got to socialize with children her own age, free from therapy constraints or well-meaning but stifling adult attention. Here in this moment, everything felt so wonderfully normal. The afternoon drifted by with surprising ease. Laughter sprinkled their conversations, and even Savannah let out a few delighted sounds as Ethan performed a little dance he learned at daycare. Eventually the sun began to set, painting the sky with soft shades of orange and pink. They started to gather their things, reluctant to end the day. Out of the corner of his eye, Thomas noticed Anna's phone lighting up again. This time she answered it, stepping away with a worried frown. He caught fragments of her conversation. "Yes, I know the payment is late. I'll get it to you soon. Please just give me a little more time." She ended the call abruptly, shoulders tense. Thomas waited until she returned, searching her eyes. "Is everything okay?" he ventured quietly, not wanting Ethan or Savannah to sense any tension. Anna forced a smile, though it didn't reach her eyes. "It's just my landlord," she confessed. "He's not exactly patient about rent payments." Thomas felt a pang of concern. He knew the struggles of single parenthood, even though his financial situation couldn't be more different. He decided not to push the subject, instead offering to help carry her things back to her car. But his mind was already spinning. She'd mentioned earlier that she was behind on medical bills, daycare fees, and rent. He'd overheard her quietly speaking about how tips weren't enough to cover emergencies. As they said their goodbyes, a moment of awkwardness hung in the air. Anna sensed Thomas's unspoken pity, but squared her shoulders, determined to maintain her dignity. With a quiet promise to keep in touch, she and Ethan walked off, leaving Thomas watching them heart-heavy with the knowledge of her struggles. That night, while putting Savannah to bed, Thomas couldn't get Anna off his mind. He wondered what it would look like to help her. Was it right to intervene financially? Or would such an offer insult her pride? More than just charity. Perhaps there was a way to empower her to chase her dreams, to ensure Ethan had stability, and to keep that unbreakable kindness alive in her spirit. The revelations whispered through his thoughts as he lay in bed. Savannah safely tucked in her room, with her medical equipment close by. He'd spent his life building a fortune, forging alliances with billionaires and politicians. Yet none of that prepared him for this strange new territory, wanting to help someone purely because their heart was good and their struggles unfair. Day by day, he felt himself stepping closer to a precipice of change, uncertain where it would lead, but determined to find out. Thomas had never been one to waver once he set his mind on something. After the picnic in Greenfield Park, he spent long nights drafting a plan to help Anna. A plan that wouldn't simply drop money into her lap, but might actually allow her to stand on her own feet. He hated the idea of forcing a charity handout on someone who prided themselves on independence. Anna already navigated life with grace, balancing single motherhood and a demanding job. He wanted to offer her a lifeline without making her feel small. The plan crystallized on a weekday afternoon. Thomas rummaged through old files in his home office, searching for contact details of friends and philanthropic organizations. One name kept reappearing: Sarah Donovan, director of the Emergent Hope Scholarship Fund. Sarah was an old acquaintance she had once partnered with Caldwell Innovations for a tech education initiative. The Emergent Hope Scholarship existed to help adult learners or underprivileged students return to college. If Anna truly wanted to become a social worker, a scholarship from Sarah's fund could be life-changing. Yet as Thomas picked up his phone to call Sarah, doubts gnawed at him. Was he overstepping boundaries? Did he really know Anna well enough to orchestrate such assistance? After all, she might reject it, or worse, feel embarrassed that he knew of her financial struggles. He drummed his fingers on the desk, remembering Anna's gentle smile and the unwavering kindness she showed Savannah. Eventually, he decided that if there was any risk worth taking, it was this one. Sarah Donovan answered on the third ring, her tone bright and curious. After exchanging pleasantries, Thomas explained Anna's situation briefly, without revealing too many personal details, and requested information about the scholarship application process. Sarah was instantly supportive. "Thomas, you've done so much for us in the past," she said. "If this friend of yours is truly committed, we'll do everything in our power to accommodate her. She just needs to apply and meet the basic requirements." Thomas agreed to forward the application link to Anna. He pictured how he might present this to her, without making it sound like pity. Perhaps he could frame it as a chance to chase her dream. The next challenge was finding a discreet yet impactful way to handle her immediate financial burden. He knew from overhearing the phone conversation that rent was a pressing issue. Maybe he could talk to her landlord anonymously, covering a few months of rent, giving her breathing room so she could focus on the scholarship. But that might be too invasive. Before he could decide, life took an unexpected turn. One afternoon, Anna received devastating news. Rosie's place was shutting down due to mounting debts. Rosie's place had been a beloved fixture in the community, but the owner, Rosalinda Santos, had struggled with rising supply costs and diminishing revenues. It was all over local news the iconic diner would close its doors by the end of the month. Anna's world spiraled as she realized her primary source of income was vanishing. She still had tips coming in until the closure, but severance pay would be minimal at best. If she couldn't secure another job soon, she and Ethan were at risk of eviction. Everything she had painstakingly held together threatened to collapse like a tower of cards. Desperate, Anna spent hours scouring online job boards and visiting local businesses with her resume. She had limited qualifications, 2 years of college, a background in waitressing, and a heart full of empathy. Unfortunately, empathy didn't pay the bills in most entry-level positions, and her minimal experience left her with few callbacks. In a moment of vulnerability, she texted Thomas, apologizing for the intrusion, but asking if he knew of any job openings. Thomas's heart sank at the text. He immediately called Anna, who answered with a trembling voice. She tried to stay composed, but he could sense her panic. "I'm sorry to bother you," she said quietly, "but Rosie's place is closing and I need—" "You don't need to apologize." Thomas interjected. "I was actually planning to call you. There's something I'd like to offer. Not a job per se, but an opportunity." Cautiously, Anna listened as Thomas told her about the Emergent Hope Scholarship. At first, she was silent. When she finally spoke, her voice shook. "A scholarship. For me. Thomas, I didn't even finish my degree. Why would they? But They will if you show them you're serious," he insisted. "I remember you telling me you wanted to be a social worker. This might be the perfect chance." Anna's relief was palpable, but so was her hesitation. That's wonderful, but I don't know if I can manage. I still need a job." And Ethan Thomas took a breath. He knew this was the tricky part. "What if you had help with your expenses for a while?" he said softly. I can invest in you, Anna. Not in a condescending way, but like a sponsor. You deserve to fulfill your dreams, and Ethan deserves stability." Silence filled the line. Then Anna's quiet sobs broke through. I don't know what to say," she managed between tears. "No one's ever offered me something like this." Thomas reassured her that there was no pressure. If she felt uncomfortable, she could decline. But the words were already out, and Anna's heart soared at the chance for a better future. Still, she worried about the strings attached. The last thing she wanted was to become indebted to a man she hardly knew, no matter how kind he was. She asked for time to think it over, and Thomas readily agreed. Hanging up, Anna clutched her phone, trembling. A part of her felt immensely grateful, as though a lifeline had been tossed into the raging waters of her life. Another part remained fearful. What if she lost her independence or compromised her pride? She wanted to be more than someone's charity case. But when she glanced at Ethan quietly playing with battered toy cars in their small living room and remembered her dream of helping vulnerable children, she realized that maybe a gift wasn't always a burden. Sometimes it was the key to unlocking destiny. While Anna wrestled with the decision about Thomas's offer, a parallel struggle brewed in Thomas's world. Though he'd stepped down from the CEO role at Caldwell Innovations, the company's board of directors and key investors were uneasy about the transition. In hushed meetings, they voiced their concerns to Joseph Whitfield, the newly appointed CEO, who in turn pressured Thomas to reassure stakeholders. The technology sector was highly competitive, and rumors of Thomas's personal distractions and philanthropic detours raised doubts about the company's future direction. One such investor, Richard Hathaway, was particularly vocal. He was a billionaire with a reputation for cutthroat business moves. He summoned Thomas to a private lunch in downtown San Francisco to discuss the future. When Thomas arrived at the opulent restaurant, Hathaway wasted no time getting to the point. "I hear you're spending your time on charitable endeavors and personal matters," Hathaway said, swirling a glass of red wine. His eyes were cold and calculating. "I understand wanting to step away, but the market doesn't reward uncertainty. We need reassurance that Caldwell Innovations will remain stable, or else some of us will consider pulling our investments." Thomas felt his stomach clench. Years ago, Hathaway's substantial financing had been a cornerstone of the company's growth, but now it felt like a chain around Thomas's ankles. He squared his shoulders, determined not to let Hathaway intimidate him. "Joseph is fully capable," Thomas insisted. "I wouldn't have chosen him otherwise." "Caldwell. Innovations isn't going under just because I'm not CEO. If anything, we're stronger now than we've ever been." Hathaway drummed his fingers on the table. "We'll see," he said tersely. "But if you're off playing guardian angel to some waitress, you might be missing bigger threats on the horizon." Thomas's eyes flashed with anger. "What I do with my time is my business," he countered pointedly, refusing to confirm Hathaway's rumor. With that, he stood and walked out, ignoring Hathaway's parting remarks about the unpredictability of markets and board votes. Driving away, Thomas fumed not just at Hathaway's audacity, but at the pit of anxiety simmering in his gut. He'd worked too hard to see Caldwell Innovations overshadowed by this drama. Yet he refused to abandon the commitments he'd made to himself and Savannah. And what about Anna? The thought of her out on the street unemployed weighed heavily on him. He decided to stand firm. He would help Anna no matter what the investors thought. That evening, with worry gnawing at him, Thomas tried to focus on reading Savannah a bedtime story. She snuggled against him, listening to the soft timbre of his voice. Her contentment momentarily soothed his turmoil. She was his reason for everything. As she drifted off to sleep, he found himself gazing at her peaceful face, realizing how much he wanted to create a secure world for her, and perhaps to bring some of that comfort into Anna's life too. Meanwhile, Anna's anxiety escalated with each passing day. She'd come close to accepting Thomas's offer a dozen times, only to be held back by an old fear that letting someone help her might mean giving up control. Early one morning, as she was leaving her apartment for work, she'd picked up a temporary dishwashing job at a local cafe. Her landlord cornered her about the overdue rent. She pleaded for a few more weeks, explaining she was waiting on final checks from Rosie's place. The landlord was curt, barely disguising his threat of eviction. Exhausted, Anna returned to her apartment that night to find Ethan had developed a fever. Piling on a new round of medical bills and lost work hours was the last straw. She sank onto the worn couch and dialed Thomas's number, her heart pounding. This time she wouldn't ask for more time. She would accept his help at least temporarily. When he answered, relief flooded her, and she timidly said, "Thomas, about that scholarship. I think I want to try." The next day they met at a coffee shop. Anna looked pale with exhaustion, and Thomas was tense from his confrontation with Hathaway. But as soon as they sat down, Anna reached out and grasped his hand, her eyes brimming with gratitude and trepidation. "I don't want to be a burden," she whispered, "but I can't see a path forward otherwise." Thomas nodded gently, withdrawing his hand, but maintaining a soft expression. "We'll do this together," he promised. "It'll be on your terms. I'll help with some immediate expenses so you can focus on getting that scholarship. Once you're on your feet, you can pay it forward someday." Tears formed in Anna's eyes. She blinked them away, her chin trembling with the tumult of gratitude, fear, and hope swirling inside her. "Thank you," she managed, voice shaking. "I promise I won't let you down." Thomas smiled. "I know you won't," he said softly. Neither noticed the curious stares from other patrons who might have recognized Thomas Caldwell, the affluent entrepreneur, quietly holding court with a weary waitress. To them, it might have looked like an unlikely pairing, a puzzle that didn't quite fit. But to Thomas and Anna, it felt like the first real step toward forging something unbreakable in the face of life's relentless storms. True to his word, Thomas orchestrated a plan to give Anna the breathing room she needed. He spoke privately with her landlord, arranging for a few months' rent to be covered under the guise of a hardship grant. The landlord, uninterested in the source, accepted without question, giving Anna the extension she desperately needed. Anna applied for the Emergent Hope Scholarship with a mix of nervous excitement. She painstakingly wrote an essay about her dream of becoming a social worker, detailing the moment she realized her calling the day a frightened mother walked into Rosie's place with a severely ill child, having no insurance or means to pay for medical care. Anna had helped call for medical aid, comforted the mother, and recognized that her greatest joy came from alleviating another's suffering. In the essay, she didn't mention Thomas or the precariousness of her current life. She wanted to stand on her own merits. In the meantime, Caldwell Innovations underwent a rocky period of negotiation and internal restructuring. Joseph Whitfield faced pressure from Richard Hathaway and other wary board members. They demanded further proof of stability and leadership. Joseph, despite being capable, was overshadowed by Thomas's legacy. His abrupt departure rattled everyone. During one tense meeting, Hathaway threatened to pull significant investment if certain assurances weren't made. When Joseph reached out, Thomas had a choice: remain distant or step in to salvage the situation. Torn between preserving the company he built and safeguarding the new life he was creating, Thomas ultimately decided to meet with the board. He made a rousing speech, asserting Joseph's competence, reaffirming his own financial backing for Caldwell Innovations, and promising that despite his stepped-back role, he hadn't abandoned the company. The board breathed a collective sigh of relief. Hathaway relented, grudgingly agreeing to give Joseph a real chance. That small victory emboldened Thomas, who realized he could safeguard his legacy while still prioritizing Savannah, and now, in a quiet but profound way, Anna and Ethan too. Shortly after, Anna got a phone call that changed her life. Sarah Donovan from Emergent Hope wanted to schedule an interview. Anna's heart raced. She arrived at the scholarship office in a modest suit borrowed from her friend Clarissa. Sitting across from a panel of 3 interviewers, including Sarah, Anna answered questions about her life, her ambitions, and her understanding of social work. For the first time in a long while, she spoke about her dreams with renewed vigor. She recounted her experience at Riverside Children's Therapy Center, with Savannah explaining how it underscored her desire to help children with special needs. It felt surreal to talk about when I become a social worker, as though she were bravely claiming a future that once seemed impossible. Days later, the acceptance email arrived, declaring her the recipient of a partial scholarship. Anna practically collapsed with joy, tears streaming down her cheeks as Ethan tugged at her sleeve, clueless about the milestone his mother just achieved. She immediately called Thomas, voice trembling with excitement. His laughter on the other end of the line was warm and proud. A new chapter began. Anna enrolled in evening classes at a local community college that transferred credits to a 4-year institution partnering with the Emergent Hope Scholarship. She managed to secure a part-time job as a receptionist at the Redwood City Community Center. Less pay than waiting tables, but closer to her field of interest. Between classes, studying and caring for Ethan, her schedule was packed, but her spirits soared. Thomas stood at her side in quiet support, ensuring that rent and essential bills wouldn't topple her progress. He offered childcare when her schedule clashed with Ethan's daycare hours, sometimes even bringing Ethan and Savannah together for an afternoon playdate. Those sessions were often chaotic and heartwarming. Savannah's shy delight at Ethan's antics, Ethan's inquisitive questions about her wheelchair. Thomas watched them interact, a lump forming in his throat as he realized how much of a family they felt like, in their own unorthodox way. It wasn't long before local news picked up an anecdote. The once fabled millionaire dad, rumored to have retired early, was seen at community events, volunteering at Riverside Children's Therapy, or quietly supporting philanthropic endeavors for disabled children. In a small piece by a local journalist, speculation ran wild about whether Thomas Caldwell had undergone a personal transformation or was launching a new philanthropic venture. Thomas shrugged it off, unwilling to confirm or deny. What truly mattered to him was that Savannah seemed happier than ever, thriving with each passing month of therapy, and that Anna was blossoming into the life she'd only dreamed of before. Eventually, on a brisk autumn afternoon, a small ceremony was held at the community college. Anna, along with other Emergent Hope recipients, received official recognition. Standing at the podium, Anna thanked the organization, her teachers, and her friends. Her voice quivered with emotion as she spoke about her mission to support children who faced overwhelming challenges. She did not name Thomas directly, but as she glanced at him in the audience, sitting beside Savannah with Ethan fidgeting in his lap, her tear-filled eyes said everything. Thomas winked in response, a grin of sheer admiration on his face. After the ceremony, they gathered in the college courtyard. Anna held her scholarship certificate with pride. For a moment she stood there, uncertain whether to break the invisible barrier that had kept her heart guarded. Summoning courage, she moved toward Thomas and Savannah. Leaning down, Anna gently placed a hand on Savannah's shoulder, then turned to Thomas, her eyes reflecting gratitude and something deeper. Without a word, she leaned in, pressing a light kiss on his cheek. Savannah let out a sound that could only be described as laughter, drawing their attention to her wide, bright smile. The moment felt electric, an unspoken promise of a future they would shape together, one that might be far different than either had ever imagined. And so their story evolved, not just a tale of a millionaire father and a waitress, but of two single parents forging a path through adversity, anchored by compassion and bound by the unwavering love for the children who taught them what truly mattered. In finding each other, they discovered the priceless gift of hope, and in sharing that hope, they forever changed one another's lives. Life has an uncanny way of bringing the right people together at exactly the right time. In this heartfelt story of compassion and second chances, a simple act of kindness bridged two very different worlds. Thomas's wealth and Anna's struggles could have kept them divided. Yet it was their shared empathy driven by the innocent hearts of Savannah and Ethan that wove their lives into one. If this story touched your heart, please remember how a moment's kindness can spark a lifetime of change. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey, full of hope, love, and the courage to dream again. If you found inspiration or comfort here, please like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to our channel for more uplifting stories. Together, we can keep the spirit of kindness alive, one story at a time.